And this morning I have a guest with me in the studios with whom I shall be having a discuss. We'll be chatting basically about the children and how we can help them. And I have the pleasure of introducing to you this morning Francisca Igboa. She is the founder of the Leo Jackson Kids Foundation. Good morning, Francisca.
Good morning, Mom.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right. Leo Jackson Foundation. Maybe you should tell me briefly about it. I mean, how did this come about? What informed your decision?
Okay.
Since you are the founder of the organization, how did this come about? Let's begin from there.
Okay. Leo Jackson Kids Foundation revolves around children. Now, both names, Leo and Jason. Leonid means greatness.
Okay.
Jacinta means beauty. And by the time we had two names together, Leo Jackson means great beauty.
Okay, that's
which is the inner self of a child growing up. Every child has the beauty from the inside. Now the center around Leo Jackson Kids Foundation revolves around the less privileged kids, then the child molested victims also. Then we're looking at kids that will need educational aids. Then child welfare development is a bit low this way in Nigeria, and a lot has to be done on child welfare development.
So yes, I quite agree with you. Now, looking at the issue of child molestation, you know, children are molested in various forms.
Yes.
And we look at, the issues of abuse, which in spite of the campaigns still exists. There's so much going on in terms of abuse of our children, especially the girl child.
Yes.
Where does the foundation fit into all of this?
Now, the girl child, I wouldn't even restrict molestation to just girl child.
Yeah.
It's a gender.
It's
a gender cause.
Yes.
And in most cases, this happens within our environment.
Okay.
If not in the home, outside the home, and the environment. It goes on to in schools. Now, if I would say child molestation would not also restrict to just rape. When a child is not being loved and has no love of a parent or a guardian to 0%, that is also child molestation. And also when you have children being sent out to do many cause, that is also restrained to child molestation. And so you have a lot of things going on. If we have to restrain it to just the rape and sexual harassment, then we also are going to neglect some factors that has to do with child molestation.
Yeah. As you know, a follow-up to what I said earlier, we have quite a lot of this going on.
Yes.
And people, if you ask some parents, for instance, those parents who send their kids out to go hawking because it's part of child molestation, they'll tell you it's the economic situation in the country.
Yes.
Some people would also tell you that, a child has been abused sexually, either male or female, that is probably because of the depravity of the abuser.
Okay.
Does it go beyond all of this? Or is it just what we see on the face value?
It goes beyond. I wouldn't say economically things are really down, and parents search for a way to make a living with these kids going out. But I must tell you the truth, when you have a child and you think of what this child can be in future, now the government has room for education free to an extent. Let's say, okay, the books and other content that has to go with education is not there. But for the fact that you have that on the surface value, you as a mother would want the child, or you should develop on the child being in the school system while you have that opportunity, because it's been placed on the table.
Yes.
Now the other things that are not there might be the books, the pencil, and I'm sure the government will be working on that to put that on the table too. So why not let this kid have the benefit for education than send the child out to the street to sell? Now for a parent, you talk about economic situation being down. There are things you can do. If you put yourself in their shoes, you find 4 kids carrying so many things on the tray, hawking along the street. I'm sure if a parent take the time to gather all of that sauce together, sit and sell, she would make more profit than these kids you put on the street to sell. Yes. And we now look at, apart from the education setting, we now look at other limitations. You have workshops coming up.
Okay.
You have seminars. I'm sure if most of these parents that talk about the economic situation, if they participate in such workshops,
Yes.
and they get to know that there are other hand chores you can do to make a living, then you don't fall into line of putting your kids in danger.
Now, there seems to be so much loaded in, in what you're doing, and it looks like it's not everyone that's, to a large extent, 100% agrees with what you're saying. I mean, if we take a look at, this bill, that's, the proposal for this bill by National Assembly on child marriages.
True.
Of course, such people, lawmakers must be seeing things from a different perspective than what, from the way we are seeing it. What's your take on this? So many people have, cried out that it's wrong to have, child marriages, to have children probably either being forced or coerced or whatever into, child marriages. But really and truly, it looks like they are seeing things from a different perspective.
Yes, earlier on in probably the early days of this child marriage thing came from the north, I must say.
Okay.
Most of it happened to develop from the north, where you have a child being trained and kept for marriage for an older man
Okay.
to get married to the child. Now, in those cases, most homes did that those times because they were poor and they were looking for avenues to send this child away from marriage
Okay.
to get money given to them by these older people to the family. Now, if you sell the emotions of that child, what happens to the child aftermath? Going to an older man or getting married to this older man. Now, the children will say are the future of tomorrow.
Yes.
What happens when you sell off a child or a girl child to get married early? What happens to her future? What happens to the education? What happens to physically injured? Now, when I mean physically injured, they are young.
Okay.
For any girl child that gets married, definitely, whoever is getting married to this child will want to sleep with that child. The man will not tell me, I'm waiting till she's 20. No. What happens to her when she's been slept with? There are a lot of issues that comes around a young child given at that time.
Yes, but you see,
have...
there are, like you said, about it being practiced,
yes,
in
way
the
back,
days of yore.
but now
It's
civilized...
still ongoing, even in, outside. Let's take it outside Nigeria now.
Yes.
Because I know that in the Middle East, it's talking about the Middle Eastern countries, and some Asian countries, it is a norm. It is a given. And, these children are set to be kept. Probably sometimes they even tell us that their education won't be affected, that they will allow them to go to school. But really, they are being raised for this particular man. Anything wrong in this?
It's a very wrong decision. If you come into gender-wise and you're talking about the male and female gender, why will a girl child be restricted? They are all same, male or female. A girl child has a lot of potentials, not restricted to the home. A girl child has a lot to do in the society. Now, why restrict the age of the child to marriage at 13 or at 9? Why? They are the future of tomorrow. They have a lot of things to offer to the society. And I will now place myself in the shoes that, okay, let's go back to this bill being passed. If you as a legislator, you have a child that is 13-year-old and is a girl child, will you give that child out to the public for marriage? I'm not being sentimental. I'm being realistic here.
Okay.
And now you want that same child from another mother at that same age to be given out for marriage. Would you do that in your shoes? It's a very sensitive issue.
Yes, I must agree with you.
Yes, and it's going to affect every child physically, socially, emotionally. In fact, psychologically, you can place a child in that traumatic condition. There's something called post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
It's you can control that, and if you affect any child in that manner, then it takes a long time for the child to come out from that situation.
Wow, Francisca, I see that this looks like something that, is really heavy on your heart.
It is.
This looks like an issue that is heavy on your heart, and you're so concerned about it. Okay, moving away from it, because this is all, these are things that are evolving, and, it's all basically hinged on the development of the child. We'll look at what we can do to aid the child's development and what your foundation is also doing.
Okay, now we have a team coming up for October 1st and October 2nd. It's a campaign against rape,
Okay.
child molestation, and to aid education for kids.
Okay.
Now it's on 2 separate days, October 1st and October 2nd.
Okay.
October 1st will be taking place at the SOS Children Village, whereby kids will have to do a stage performance to the audience on how this has affected them so much. There's going to be the art performance and the musical performance also. Now we'll have a little bit of a talk to these children to understand when they're in this certain environment they are not comfortable enough, and how to avoid.
Okay.
To some extent, rape can be avoided to some extent if they speak up on time.
On time.
Yes.
Now, I'm looking beyond, all this talk. Because it looks like even the workshop, even the campaign is basically about talk. Is there anything else the foundation is doing to assist these children? I mean, like the less privileged children who, have been molested. How are you helping them? Is there anything you're doing, to aid their education? Probably maybe like providing educational services or whatever, I don't know. Is there anything your foundation is doing?
For a bit of time, we'll visit the less privileged home.
Okay.
And we render our supports to these homes.
What kind of support are we looking at here?
Financial supports.
Okay.
Educational supports to provide books, though it's been of a challenge to get sponsors because the same thing comes into place. Like, okay, fine, if a sponsor wants to sponsor your foundation, they have this, it's so much of corruption everywhere. So it's a bit difficult to not into that. But we're trying our best to see that we can help the less privileged, the kids that need education. For now, I'm trying to get the government to come into place so that child welfare development can grow further than it is right now.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's very good, Francisca. Now, as we round up this discuss, please, a word of advice to our children and even to the adults in the society, because really and truly, it is the adults that perpetrate, those crimes against the children.
Yes. They are called pedophiles. We have to talk to them to understand that the kids have emotions in them and to do us a lot of good to stop this, to avoid abortions, to avoid early pregnancies, to avoid infection disease on these kids because they are still young. Anything could happen to their cervix if they have been raped. So it's an avenue and a means to talk to the society. Please don't do it. Stay off the little kids. Now, for parents that are out there, there's a lot to do to your child. There's a lot of talking to do. They listen to you. All you have to do is make them understand why an adult should not touch you in very sensitive places and why you should say no when it starts. So I'm going to also leave the parents to do their homework, a bit of homework. And to the kids, we love you, and the parents also love you, and even the adults around you are ready to look out to protect you for being raped from the pedophiles in the society. Thank you so much.
Very much, Francisca Ibua. Thank you indeed. I mean, there's been so much talk this morning about our children, about, ensuring that our children who are the leaders of this nation tomorrow are not destroyed at, they're in the early stages of their lives. Morning Right continues. I mean, this is something that has come to weigh heavily on my heart as well. But once again, thank you very much, Francisca.
Thank you.
Well done.
Thank
well
you.
done. And we look forward to, your campaigns on the 1st and 2nd of October.
Yes, on the 2nd will be a rally, a short rally.
Okay.
To cop that.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Okay.